fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. Heard on KC 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and I'm Al Warren, and Mr. David North Martino is charming us to be back after his nice holiday.
Yes.
His big
I'm
vacation.
charming you?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, he's great. He's back. He's charming. He's thrilling. Everyone's excited. Nipples are hard.
Well, that's good.
The crowd has been waiting for you to come back.
Wow.
Yeah, they're tired of hearing this miserable old cuss. You know? They want something good, something nice. It was an unbalanced power.
They love you, Al.
No, it's just the email said something different.
Oh, okay.
It's like they love me, please. Now even other news hosts are complaining about me. Jeez.
You're infamous.
I'm becoming that way. I'm
It's
becoming
great.
hated. I don't know what's going on. Don't even say anything. It's your fault.
It's my fault. Well, I love you, Al.
No, well, there you go.
I do.
No, it's because you're nice. It makes me look really bad. So I'm blaming it on you.
I mean, we're just playing good cop, bad cop, I thought.
Well, here, let me write this down, because I am going to tell the station manager that it's only because you are so nice.
Oh.
They actually think, oh, what's he doing with that old crass man? Jeez, so give him a show. Get rid of that old thing there. You know? Anyway. Well, so we're doing another Writer's Day. Now, this guy's all the way from the UK.
Wow.
And he's got another book out. This is like a thriller, scary book, okay? So you better put on your seatbelt. I know.
I'm strapped in.
Yeah, don't cry. Okay, so now sit down. Now the book is called Don't Let Him In. The gripping psychological thriller that will send shivers down your spine. And also the long title that will bother the host. Mr. Howard Linskey, thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, Alan. Hello, David. Thanks for having me on the show. Very good of you.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know if it's very good of us, but, you know. Wow, that's a long title.
What, Don't Let Him In? A long title.
Don't Let Him In, but it's the gripping psychological thriller.
Oh, yeah. Well, they do that weirdly on retail sites, don't they? They sort of extend it so that there's dozens of words on there. But, just Don't Let Him In will do. And then they have a bit of blurb that they add on it. So, yeah. But I guess it's the desire to cram everything into the title bar so that you read it and hopefully stay on it and click on it and buy it. So there you go.
Yeah. Soon it'll be the first chapter.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to do.
You usually get that for free as well, so you can see whether you actually want to buy the thing or not.
Yeah.
That could be a double-edged sword, really. But yeah, you click on the audio and have a listen and see what you think. Yeah.
Who don't you want to let in?
Well, I think it's kind of funny because on the cover, I don't know if you've noticed, but they put my name at the top. And so if you read it from the top, it literally says, Howard Linskey, don't let him in.
Let him in.
And then it says underneath there, he's always been there, now he's coming for you. And my friends find that highly amusing, because they've known me for a while.
Now that you say that, yeah. So is this about you? Is this all the rejection you've had in your life?
Yeah, and you guys, you let me in. I mean, you're regretting it already, I can say.
Oh.
Yeah, it was kind of appropriate. But no, this is a fictional killer that you'd be probably relieved to hear. It's not actually my autobiography. And it's set in a spooky northern seaside town, a bit of a rundown place. We've got quite a few of those in the UK these days, crumbling places that can't really afford to do anything more than have a lick of paint applied to the buildings. And in the northeast where I'm from, the climate's pretty pretty cold and a bit blustery as well. So it's the kind of place where if you walk on the sand, you do it in a coat. Usually by walking a dog at the same time. It's not one of those places where people sunbathe. So it does have a bit of an atmosphere, that part of England. And I think it's quite a good setting for a spooky tale, a crime fiction novel with a bit of a, hopefully a bit of a twist that you don't see coming, as they always say on the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said it's a fictional one, but I know from all the fiction writers we interview that a lot of these characters are usually the main character has a lot of the author in it.
Yeah, well, this is a woman, so I can't claim too much.
So you've got quite a bit to explain here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so her name is Rebecca, but that's not me at weekends. So but we do. I suppose we do share one thing that she's quite a bit younger than me, but she's a journalist, and she's gone into journalism at probably the wrong time, because probably on both sides of the Atlantic, it's harder to be a journalist with news and everything being free online, and it's harder to make a living. And she comes back to the Northeast because her father, who is a newspaper editor or has died suddenly, and she thinks it's kind of natural causes. But when she gets back, she starts to realise that he might actually have been murdered, because it wasn't conclusive initially. It looks like a fall, but it could have easily been that he was actually attacked, and a bone in his neck was broken, which makes it look like it could be strangulation. So she's now alone in his spooky old house, sorting out his gear and trying to work out what he was investigating and why it might have got him killed. So, yeah. So I've never done that, personally, but I could easily imagine it. So,
Not that you're going to admit to, anyway.
That's true. That's true, yes.
So this is one of your standalone books. Now, you are more into writing series, aren't you?
Yeah, but to be honest with you, kind of by accident, my first book became a series, but it was meant to be a standalone, and the publisher that took it, The Drop, wanted more. And as I was writing it, there were ideas coming to me. I was like, what if this happened? And I think, there's no room for that in this book. So I kind of parked that. And then it sort of morphed into a bit of a sequel, and then it became a trilogy. And the same thing happened when I moved to Penguin Random House with a book called No Name Lane. And I had a weird moment where my agent phoned me from the London Book Fair and said that Emad, the editor, had been popped along from Penguin. He'd read the book, he'd finished it, he really loved it, and he wanted to buy it. And I went, yay! And then my agent said, and he can't wait to see where you're going to go with the series. And I went, because there wasn't one. There really wasn't one. And so I had a little small celebration. You open something fizzy and drink it, and then in the morning, I literally wrote the words, "It is 18 months later." And then I tried to work out where the characters might be and what they might be looking at. And I was literally thinking in terms of the three main characters, where they would have moved on to in about a year and a half. And then as I wrote bits, I started to get the idea for another book. And there have been 4 in that series. And but Don't Let Him In is going to be a standalone, because the character is literally investigating the death of her own father, and she's not really a detective or a PI, or she's not in the police, and she's a journalist who just wants to be a journalist and happens to get caught up in something because it affected her own father. So finally I've written a standalone. It isn't going to morph into a series.
Well, yeah, but you could make that a series. Maybe Rebecca's going to transition to a guy named Howard.
Good thinking. Yes.
and he's going to write books.
A bit like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but like a kind of, the old movie Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Yeah, it's just kind of an update. Fits the new society, and think about this.
I should talk to you guys more often. I'm thinking about what to write next. So give me some ideas here, guys. Thank you. Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Here to help writers. And don't worry about any credits. Just take it all. Don't worry.
I thought you were going to say, don't worry about any credits, just send me money.
No, I want nothing to do with this. When they all come down on you on Twitter, don't start using my name here. No.
Gosh. Yeah, that magic word cancelled, where you were trying it just implodes after all these years because you said something. That's been misconstrued, if you want to put it charitably. But
your whole life's gone in one.
Oh my goodness!
2 words.
Go on radio, they said. What could possibly go wrong?
They didn't tell you about me. Well, that's interesting, but I just wonder. But if when you so you do this book, and then the other book, and all of a sudden it's like they can't wait to see where you go. Doesn't that make you feel a little bit of pressure? Do you feel kind of, oh my God, now what?
It did a bit, and I think I had to convince myself, give myself a bit of a talking to, that it was a nice problem to have, because obviously it was a bit of a problem. I was quite nervous when my editor said, I can't wait to see where you go next with these characters. And I do remember vividly sitting down with him at Bristol Crime Fest. We went for a coffee, and I said, right, yeah, the second book, so here. And I pitched it, I guess a bit like people pitch to Tim Robbins, the player, the 25 words or less thing. And I was just scrutinising him, looking just to see if his eyes glazed or if he just rolled his eyes and thought, oh my God, what have I let myself in for here? I've purchased 3 books off this guy, and his second one's just out there. But thankfully he liked it. And then so I wrote that one. But it's the same every time. You come up with an idea and you send it to your publisher and hope they won't, throw up or something, or they'll just pass out. But if they like it, and I try and come up with something that, is a bit different, hasn't hopefully been done before, or at least if it has. I mean, obviously lots of crime stories follow the theme of either a body being found or something's gone missing, or we're not sure quite what's happened, but it's hard to be wholly original. I like to try and deliver it in a little bit of a different way if I can.
Well, you should write a crime when no murder happens.
Yeah, there you go. Well, sometimes
it's called a drama.
The crime is there was no crime.
Yeah, the crime was you bought this book and there's no crime.
The crime was me trying to defraud the readers into believing there was actually a murder in here, and they parted with £7.99 over here, or whatever it is these days. Yeah, gosh, yeah, that would be original. You couldn't really fault it. I mean, I do like sometimes to kind of say, well, someone's disappeared and we don't know if they've run off or been killed or if they've been, trapped, captured. So they're still hostage, maybe. So, yeah, you don't always know that there's a death there. But I suppose you pick up crime fiction, it's fairly implicit that bad things happen, sometimes to good people. But, it's fun to write, because with crime, at least you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we sort of joke about literary fiction. I don't know if you call it that over in the US, but over here we get looked down on by literary fiction writers who think they call us genre writers. Yeah, it was just a genre writer. And, but at least we have an end to our stories. They don't just ramble on. So
it's the best type of fiction.
It is, yeah, I think so.
That's right.
You get to create characters that hopefully you care about, and hopefully the readers will care about. And then just as people are starting to like them, you chuck massive problems at them. Like, someone's dead, or someone's gone missing, or there's a ticking clock and they have to solve a problem, or terrible things happen. And I think it's quite nice to put characters under the kind of pressure that readers would go, root for them over. And yeah, it's not a bad genre to write in.
Yeah, it's much more exciting.
Yeah,
it seems, you were talking about the publisher and wanting the series. It almost seems like publishers today really want that book to not be a standalone, but be able to be morphed into a series. And
you get it. I think there's a weird, at the moment there's a bit of a moving away from that, actually, because when I started with Penguin, so it was 8 years ago when I first signed up for the first novel. And then it really was, if you can get some characters and establish the characters and write a series, that's great. And then a few books in, I was going to write one that potentially featured those same characters. And it was a book that became Alice Teal is Missing. And my editor said, actually, at the moment, we're finding it harder to get books into some of the bigger stores when it's number 4 in the series, when it's number 5 of the series. And what's happened over in this country, we have supermarkets, which from an American perspective, you would think they were dwarf markets. They're still small. They're not as big as the shops you guys have. But they sell everything. So they used to just sell food and drink items or whatever. But now they sell clothes, they sell music, they sell electrical goods, and they also sell books. And it's a bit of a positive if you get into those stores. But they don't have a bookshop full of stock. They just have like a shelf or a few shelves. So they'll only take 24 titles a month, sometimes 12 titles if they're smaller ones. And to get one of those slots is quite coveted. And yeah, if you pitch them number 5 in the series, unless you're a stellar name, a big name, then they're probably going to go, but we didn't sell the first 3 or the first 4. So standalones are back in vogue a bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
You could always go to those markets and just empty a shelf and put your books on it.
Yeah. I've often fantasized about that, to be honest. And we all do the thing when we walk into a bookshop and we see our books with the spines facing out, and we just look around, no one's looking, so we slide it out to the shelf and turn it face forward so that it grabs the eye. I think all of us authors would admit to doing that.
Oh, so, I do much worse than that. I pour coffee in all the ones beside me. I go out. They kick me out of this. They don't.
You stand there all day, and as they slide out with the books out, you just go, "Nah, don't. I've read that. It's terrible. Don't bother." No. Yeah. The other one. Yeah.
You've seen me. Yeah, that's what I do.
You're the guy on the CCTV on that YouTube channel, aren't you? Yeah, the one who's.
Yeah. That's all I do. It's like, oh, you don't want to read that one. Oh my God. Yeah.
But in the UK, these supermarket slots that I mentioned are more coveted than the Booker Prize. It's you really want to be in these places because people apparently buy books on impulse while they're buying groceries. I mean, I'm a browser. I like to go to bookstores and spend ages and look at things and occasionally come out with books that I probably will, struggle to find the time to read, but. Seemingly, people occasionally buy groceries on a Friday and put a book in the trolley.
Yeah, all that stuff does. But I don't know how much they read it. I think they just like to buy all those whim things by the cash till when they're waiting.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, and also that's why it's important to have these little strap lines on there and so shout lines as they call them in publishing, so that at least you get across what you're selling, what you're writing about.
Yeah, it's crazy, but. I spend a lot of time putting my books in all those stores.
Good man.
Man, I just don't make any money from it. That's it.
But they might buy the next one up. If they like the first one, they might buy the next one. Yeah. Look at all those authors on Kindle who used to give the first book away and hope that you bought the second one. So
and they're all working at the drive-through. Come on.
Yeah.
No, come on, that doesn't work. I mean, you're giving away something that they don't want. So what's the point?
Gosh. Yeah.
Right. But remember, all hate mail goes to Jade now that he's back. It's not about me, right? See, now you can see why they hate me and like him. Where does it come from? But you just say when the idea comes, you're just sitting there and you kind of wrap it. Do you just have this wild imagination, or do you have dreams?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I have a weird brain, and I don't know if all writers are like. I mean, I know a lot of authors, and I think we're all a little bit similar, but. I think one of the things that authors do is even mundane situations, we sit there and we go, oh, what if? What if suddenly this happened? What if that woman up there playing with that child suddenly got grabbed by a man? Or what if, somebody marched in here and started shooting a gun or whatever? I think our brains are always ticking over. And I think I saw somebody explaining that being an author is a bit like having 50-odd tabs open on the internet, but they're all open at once at the same time, and they're all whirring around. And even when you're not writing, you're kind of writing in your head. And I usually start with just like a germ of an idea. And this, but Don't Let Him In, that idea was that my hero, heroine, whatever you wish to, the protagonist, I suppose is the neutral phrase, she has to come home because her dad dies and she tidies up his estate, and lots of us have to go through that. But in this case, she finds something pretty sinister, and that sinister thing was he didn't die naturally; he was murdered. And that became the start of that. And then what I need to do then is I always have to have an ending in my mind, because I can't be one of those writers who just writes a book and says, "Oh, I have no idea how it's going to end." Like, really? What if you get to like 80,000 words and you've got no idea how to wrap this up? I admire them, but I'm also like, how can you do that? So, and then my job is, having settled on hopefully a very good ending and a good hook at the start, the challenge is how do I get you guys to keep reading once you're past that opening chapter, and I've got to throw in all sorts of things to keep you guessing, and they're all red herrings and things that make you want to go, oh, what was that? A little drip feed of information there, and I want to know a bit more about that guy's mysterious backstory or whatever, just so you keep with me all the way through till the 90,000 word mark or whatever it happens to be.
Well, you could just stop writing at 80,000 words. You don't even have to have an ending. Just stop writing.
Can you
There are some writers who have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I've read books that have petered out. Clearly, they had no idea how to end the thing, you know. And I guess they get around that by calling it literary fiction, you know.
Yeah, just, I don't know what to say now. Yeah, it's like, what do I write now?
Can you imagine how dissatisfied if it just ended, but didn't actually end? If you said, it was just like, yeah. And he went off and he still hadn't solved the crime. But, you know, that's life. Sometimes the crime doesn't get solved. And,
the
murderer's still out there. And there's no justice for the grieving.
Yeah, you can have a little epilogue. Just get over it, okay?
Yeah,
don't have an ending. Get over it.
Look, it says on the cover, the most realistic crime novel you'll ever read, and it is. There was lots of boring investigation work that went on for weeks, and then ultimately they went, we've got no leads and no suspects. And
other things to deal with, you know.
Yeah, got to get on the next case. Yeah. There you go. We've invented a new genre, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Boring crime fiction.
The unfinished boring book.
The unsolved trilogy.
So now, are you hearing voices and stuff, or do you see pictures? Like, how do you experience this whole situation?
Well, I've all my life I've been a very big film fan. I do read. I like reading novels, but that was a lot of crime writers I know. They always talk about books they grew up reading, and I did a bit of that. But mostly for me, it was, you know, I know every line of The Godfather virtually, and that kind of thing. That influenced me more than reading novels. So I still talk about, I need to sit down and I need to write that scene where this happens. So I see it as a scene. I don't know if the writers think of chapters or the way they describe it, but I see it cinematically. And my first books were optioned for film, although they never actually were turned into film, but they were optioned by the producer of the Harry Potter films, of all people. So that was pretty amazing.
That's because he didn't have an ending.
That's it. He wanted to just add an ending. He was so frustrated. It involved wands and everything. But he did comment that it seemed cinematic. He thought it would be naturally something you turn into either a movie or a TV series. And I did comment that it's probably because I was very into movies when I was growing up. So, and I still try and watch, you know, movies whenever I can. I mean, not every single day, but ideally I'd like to sit down and watch a movie. And I don't steal from those films, but they stimulate other ideas. So I'll watch something and go, what if that happened instead? Or what if the character was very different and it went off in a different direction? I'm also one of those very annoying people who tries to say the line of dialogue before it's uttered, and if I get it right, my wife kind of wants to hurl things at me. You know, I don't know if you guys ever do that. So, but you know, she goes, "How did you know that?" And I go, "Well, that's because that's the line I would have written." You know, it just seemed obvious to me, those exact words. So, yeah, it causes a bit of friction, but you know.
Yeah, wow.
What can you do?
It's bound to happen. Yeah.
Well, you can see all the strings and the trapdoors and the way writers create the story.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I would be lying if I said every time, but quite a lot of the time I can. And then I get great pleasure when it doesn't go that way. You know, well, obviously I'm very pleased when I'm right, but at the same time, when I'm wrong, I say, "Oh, that was good. I thought it was going to be this." And it's good to be, you know, sidestepped a little bit by somebody else's clever writing. So when that happens, that's a joy. Yeah.
Well, do you have that with your characters? Are you in control of your characters, or do you feel like they have a mind of their own and they start rebelling against the plot?
Oh gosh, no, I probably not. But I do joke about it. You know, there's a couple of characters that I have, Helen and Tom, and they're not together, but clearly they should be. And people will occasionally say, "Will they get together eventually?" And I'll go, "Well, it's not down to me." Or you know, and they look at me like I'm mad. You know, and I'm only joking. But, of course, it's down to me. You know, if they end up together or whatever, I could just write it. But yeah, I tend to. I don't know. Once I'm doing their bits, I kind of fall into a fairly natural flow where I know how they speak and the sort of things they would do because I have an image of them. Oddly enough, it's not a physical image, so I couldn't tell you really what they physically look like. And I mean, not all authors do this, but I know others that do this, where someone will say to them, "Oh, I saw the guy playing this particular character on TV, and that's not how I saw the guy. You know, he doesn't look like that." And the authors, I've been there where the author's gone, "Well, I didn't physically describe him. I didn't say how tall he was, or whether he had dark hair or blonde hair or whatever." because I always find that the kind of dull bit, the idea that you take the dull bits out. Hitchcock said that cinema is life, a film is life with the dull bits cut out, which I thought was a lovely phrase. And I try not to do he walked in the room, he was 6'4", his hair was brown, he was wearing glasses. I'm bored already by this stage, and
yeah.
And I also don't describe a tree. If Al, David, and Howard need to have a clandestine meeting under a tree, I'll just say they met under the tree. I won't be describing the leaves for half a page, and they how the light caught the bark or whatever. It's not really me. I quite admire that writing seen done well by other people, but I'm just like,
that's
no.
why you're just a genre writer.
Yes, that's it. yeah, exactly. Oh, hey, do you know what? I always laugh about it anyway. It doesn't bother me too much. But Raymond Chandler apparently got really upset because people used to describe him as a mystery writer, just a mystery writer. And I thought, well, I'm in very good company then. Call me that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, at least you get called a writer. I mean,
exactly. Yes.
I get called other things.
Sometimes I get called a writer. Yes.
Well, it's funny. So you don't actually have this all outlined. You're not sitting there and you outline the whole story in the book and what the characters are.
No, not really. So I'll have
really.
an idea. It's sort of like putting a jigsaw together, I guess, or that daft. I don't know if you have this expression where you guys are, but if we say something's really complicated, we'll say it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. Yeah. And sometimes I think writing a book is a bit like assembling an onion. It's very like there's loads and loads of layers of it, and I will kind of assemble it in a bizarre way. I don't write chronologically. So I should write at the start of the book and just keep going till the end, but I don't. And I'll wake up one day and go, right, I'm going to write that scene. I'll do that scene today where David and Alan, Howard discuss murdering someone while sitting in a bar or whatever, because I'm in the mood to write that scene. And then I'll write other stuff, and then I'll realise it's all in the wrong order, literally in the wrong order. So I'll have to kind of cut and paste those bits into the right order, and then there's an awful lot of joining up to do. I have no idea why I do it that way. It seems to be not a very logical way to write a book because it does cause problems further down the line. You are a bit confused. However, it seems to work that I just want to write the bit I want to write, so I'll write that bit. And some things I'll put off for weeks because I'm not too keen on writing that particular scene, either because I think it'll be too hard work or I just can't quite work it out yet. And then one day I'll sit down and do it. And but yeah, putting it all back in the right order is when I kick myself and think, next time I won't do it like this. But I always do. I don't know why. Strange brain, I guess, guys.
Yeah. Well, just whenever you're sober, you get the mood to write.
Yes. I tried writing drunk once. I didn't. So,
That's the best seller, right?
Oh, gosh, can you imagine? Yeah. When you're drunk and you think, this is great, in the morning you read it back to yourself and go, oh, dear God, no. Yeah. So,
when I write, it's more like peeling the onion because people are crying before they get through chapter one. I can't believe someone
because they are so moved by your prose.
Yeah, they're so moved that the publisher actually paid for this. My God, it's the last time I pick up a book in a shopping market.
Well, it's probably my publisher crying when they read it.
No, you're the real writer. So you don't plan it; it just falls into place. And
I do a little bit of planning. So what I try to do is something I used to hate when I had day jobs is using those Excel spreadsheet things, because frankly they're tedious and boring and they involve maths. But what they are quite handy for is writing. Like, you can write numbers and you can put like 50 numbers down the thing, and I'll outline a chapter and I'll just kind of go chapter 3. They've killed the guy and so now they need to get rid of his body. Or chapter 11, the police come knocking on the door, and I just have to. All I do is just write that down in like that spreadsheet format, which is very boring to describe, but really works quite handily because you can move it around, do that cut and paste thing I said, and you gotta go, I need to put that conversation further along or whatever, and it helps you just keep a bit of a thread on the events that have to happen. So I'm like, right, okay, someone's investigating this crime. What's the first thing they're going to do? Well, I need to find out the time the guy died. Was there a murder? How did he die? And then, okay, who would he go and see first? Okay, go and see nearest to dearest, ask the wife or girlfriend or whatever. All that stuff we see when we're watching a movie, and it just flows. The person's going from person to person, he's asking questions, drawing a few conclusions and moving it along. I kind of worked that out a bit, but it's only in sentence form. So there isn't really a lot there other than, he goes to see Bill, and Bill is, evasive, and, he's immediately suspicious. And I'll write that down, and then that will form something that I'll get around to writing one day. And then, of course, when you submit your first draft, you get editors coming in going, yeah, no, can we bring that bit forward? Or sometimes it's a good reason. They'll say, well, I really like that scene. It's really good, but it's on page 200. Can we not have it on page 50? And you go, oh, okay. But you realise the ripple effect of taking something out of page 200 and bringing it forward 150 pages and just dropping it in there. If you're not careful, later on you'll be asking for something someone's already given you. You'll be like, where's that file I wanted? You promised to steal it for me. Yeah, dude, I gave it to you 150 pages ago. Oh, yes, you did, yes. So you have to reread it with, like, clean pair of eyes, as it were, and just go through it and go, that hasn't happened yet. You need to get rid of that. So, yeah, it can get complicated. I call it brain melt when you reach that stage, because it is complicated.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I sometimes write out of order, and then you have to go and smooth it down. I tend to use, there's a program called Scrivener, and I use that to kind of move everything around, but then you still have to go through, and it can get kind of crazy.
I've got friends who use Scrivener, and I keep meaning to give it a try, but I know they said it was a bit tricky to set it up and get used to it. So I do the old-fashioned using words thing. But when I get to the stage where I'm moving chapters around and trying to remember numbers and everything, I'm sure that would be working better for me. So I really
it takes a while to get used to.
It's nice to know, David, that I'm not the only one who writes in not in the right order, as it were, not in chronological order.
But the difference is Dave leaves it that way.
Oh,
yes. I just leave it all jumbled.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And then I call it literary fiction.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, boy.
Oh, love
See
it.
the hate mail's coming.
I'm ready for it.
We're going to get cancelled by the literary writers, but the good thing is they only have like 35 readers between them, so what do we care,
Yeah. They don't listen. Come on. They don't.
No, exactly. Oh, dear.
Well, you've had a lot of jobs before, taking the plunge as a full-time writer. Do you pull from those jobs to create your characters? And
and sometimes in weird ways. I mean, I had to write a book that involved Nazi hierarchy in the Second World War, and finding out who they were, which is quite disturbing because obviously the things they did were horrific. But weirdly, when they fell out with each other and tried to trip each other up and, be favoured by the Führer over a rival, I thought, I've worked in companies a bit like that, the office politics kind of thing, and it's just that the stakes were much higher. But I understood how, we all get that thing like, guy, he just stabbed me in the back. Or, there used to be a wonderful phrase where I worked, which was, he just threw me under a bus. Everybody used to use that phrase, I've just come out of a meeting, he just threw me under a bus in front of the boss. And, a little bit of that was for the more mundane side of that rivalry that they all had. I could see that. And also, in terms of silly comments or maybe it's a dialogue that I kind of pinch a little bit, twist. It can date back to years ago when I was a barman, because it's a great education being a barman for a while. I mean, I did it all the way through college for a year full time while I was trying to get a good job. And the stories that you tell each other as bar staff, and the stories the customers tell you. Yeah, every now and again I'll think, oh gosh, I remember Brian saying this thing 30 years ago, and I'll just tweak that a little bit. To turn that phrase around a bit and use it. So, I think authors could and should mine from their own lives. I mean, we don't, all jokes aside, we tend not to be murdering psychopaths, but we have had lives. So, we can, we know what it's like to, I don't know, fancy someone or, ask a girl out bomb, get a bit too drunk or, accidentally perhaps get told off by the police for something minor. Very, very minor, I should stress.
It's never happened.
So, but we're all young. But so little bits of stuff that or they'll just influence you and make you think of something else. So yes, I do, but I haven't done anything involving some working with police or following them around. Or I do the research, but the longer I'm at this, the less I research, in the sense that I think you should wear your research lightly anyway on the page. So, 90% of what you find out, if you try to put all of that on the page, it would be too dull. And if you describe a crime scene really accurately, you're in the pages of it, aren't you? And, waiting weeks for the test results to come back and all that kind of thing. So I tend not to get bogged down in that.
No, I think it's just more about the knowledge so that you don't get something wrong in the story.
Yes, agreed. I mean, that's a big, that's the main thing. You don't want to be deluged with emails of people saying, well, how on earth could that have happened? But, without getting too bogged down in the detail, I think it's a happy medium. To get
it's like the description of the tree and stuff. It's just, it's something that you don't need to really get into. Unless there's something about that tree that's involved somewhere down the road in the crime or the story, right?
Yes, and you know what? That just made me think, because when you work with editors, usually the editors are really clever people. I mean, they've got amazing qualifications just to be able to get into that job. It's very competitive. But occasionally they will fall for something and they'll ask me to remove something, and I'll go, oh, no, I can't remove that. I know it looks bland, but it's actually a clue. And it could be something quite minor. I had that in a book once. It was all about a guy digging something in an allotment, which is a little garden. It's like an extra garden where you grow vegetables and things here. Because we don't have as much land as you guys. So some people have like tiny gardens and they rent from the local council these allotments, which are patches of land, and you can dig them up and grow things. So I had this whole dialogue where my investigative guy was asking someone about someone else. And the guy doing the answering was going, oh, he thinks he's a great gardener, but, he dug his potatoes in February, and you don't dig your potatoes. You just wait till March before you start digging. And even my investigator was bored. He was like, that's not what I'm here for. And my editor suggested we cut it. But it was a clue, because he wasn't digging potatoes. He was digging a hole to put a body in. And he that was it. And then when he finds out later on, the investigator, that the guy in question was actually an excellent gardener, it made him, and could grow anything. It made him think, well, hang on, why would you have got that wrong? Clearly he wouldn't have got that wrong. And, oh my God, that's where the body is, so there you go. But if the editor had removed that boring bit, that 2 to 3 paragraphs, then, we'd have not got to where we were meant to in the book at the end. Yeah. So, kill the editor. Kill the editor, yes. Yeah, well,
that's right.
That's oddly enough, that's the title of my next book.
So you know. Do you actually ever have something or a point that you want people to get out of the book other than the entertainment?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I don't want to get too preachy, so it might be a little bit of a side issue. But currently, the one I've just finished writing, which will come out in September, is called The Inheritance, and quite a few of the characters in there have a sense of entitlement that I don't actually see very often in America, because you don't really have that class system we have. I know you have Ivy League, and I know you have people who've got, money and all that, but we go back centuries with this rubbish, And the sense of entitlement that people in our government, usually because they've been to Eton and Cambridge, it just means that they can make a bigger mess than most people, but they don't have any self-doubt about it. They never think it's their fault. So, and they also think the rules don't apply to them. And funny enough, as I was finishing writing it, we found out in this country that our Prime Minister had been telling us all that we couldn't go anywhere, see anyone, do anything, while having parties in Downing Street, during COVID.
Wow.
Well, don't worry about it, because the rules are just for them. Coincidentally, I've been banging on about it through the book that some of the characters acted appallingly because they didn't think the rules applied to themselves. And as is often the case, you write something, and while you're writing it, it explodes around you in the news. So that was the theme, one of the things that I was banging on about, really, that just because you went to Eton for, and it cost £30,000 a year to go there, and just because you went to Cambridge and your dad's got money, doesn't necessarily make you the best person to run our country. So, yeah.
Yeah, what's her middle name, Boris?
Yeah. Yeah, we did have a Boris. There's a Boris-like character in there, and I deliberately made it a little bit less obvious by saying that this politician that features in it, and he's not in it very much of the book, he's just in there as a character briefly, and you don't really see him, you hear about him. And someone tries to explain why the voters like him, despite the fact that he's been involved in a lot of scandals. And I summed him up by saying that he's, you know what they say about him? He's cleverer than Cameron and better looking than Boris. just purely really to get Forrest out of people's heads. But yeah, but they're all similar. You know, yes, 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, well, Cameron, I always think of a pig now. I don't know.
Oh, of course. Yes, that's his legacy.
Yes, that's just awful. But, that's ingrained in me now. I think of well, I think of what he does to pigs. But well, that's a different story.
That's his political legacy.
Yeah. Well, so in a sense, how long does it take you to write this story then, like from when the idea comes?
Approximately, the whole process is approximately a year. That's from the point where I started to the point where it actually, a pig is in a store. So the first draft, I would try and get one done within about 6 months. And then we have a few months to go back and forth with the editors. And sometimes it only takes 2 to 3 drafts. And sometimes the latest one I got a bit bogged down. It took 5 drafts. And that was a bit more, they loved the storyline, but there were things they wanted to add and things they wanted to come out of. And we got a bit bogged down. But generally speaking, I try to make sure that I'm delivering the finished item yearly, even if the publication date slips a little. So, you might have one book coming out in June and the following might come out, the next one might come out the following September, but at least it's in the same calendar year because, I don't want to get bogged down writing something for 3 or 4 years and, people forget all about me.
Well, plus don't you get caught up in it? Like if you try to, over edit or over correct and keep on changing things, you can kind of overdo it,
I mean, you can, I think, and I'm always torn because I try to be, jokes aside, I try to be a nice person to work with. I try and not be one of those guys who throws his toys out of the pram just because someone wants to change a few sentences. But because at some point you have to fight a little bit to keep the things you believe in. And I try to do it politely, but you can go back and forth a bit on that, and it can be a bit frustrating. But as long as it's mostly what you wanted to write, and still kind of 90% you, then I'm all right about it. It's just every now and again you've got to kind of go, no, I really want to keep that. Sometimes it's a scene you really care about, and there was a couple of things that I sort of kick back on the current one that I've just finished writing, and they're fine about it in the end. I think the good thing is that everybody's trying to produce the same thing, which is the best book you can. So I never question anybody's motives for saying, chapter 11, do we need it? Immediately I might think, well, yes, we damn well do need that because it took me a week to write it and I really like it. But then I try and, walk around the block, come back, look at it and go, actually, do we need chapter 11? Maybe we do need to cut bits of it. Maybe I can rephrase it a bit. And you end up with a compromise maybe where you keep that chapter, but you cut little bits of what they thought perhaps didn't add any value to the story. So, yeah, it works a bit like that, really. Bit of toing and throwing.
Jeez, I'm a drama queen. I break every glass in the house if an editor says we can't put that in there. I'm just, oh my God. Then I'm devastated. I have to go to a rest unit for a month, and I'm hard to work with. I'm terrible. I'm
just visualizing the rest unit. Does it involve alcohol or is
high maintenance?
Is that the name of your local bar? I have to go to the rest
yeah, it's just terrible. They're like, no, we don't want to work with him, please.
Crikey, yeah. Well, I try to be a pleasure to work with, but obviously we all care, don't we? And, occasionally someone will say, for example, they might want to change the title or whatever. And if they, you think, oh, please send me a good one then, because so they might say, so I had one book that I was going to call the Chameleon, but weirdly, I mention it again, there was a literary fiction book coming out the following year that was called The Chameleon, I think. And so they said, oh, we can't call it that. And we ended up with a good title, but I think, from memory, sometimes the publishers, they always say the same thing when they send something. They send you the cover, the design, and the title, and the shout line underneath the title. And you read before you open it, you read their email that says basically something along the lines of, we've been looking at this and all of us agree that it looks fantastic and really, really hope you like it. And I think that's kind of code for, please like this, because we've been working really hard on it. And if you don't like it, we're back to the drawing board. So I always really, really want to like them. And I've been very lucky, nearly always I do. But occasionally I go, oh, actually, that title that you all dreamed up together, it doesn't really make me think of a crime book, even, let alone. So you've got to politely go back and say, look, sorry, but can we have another look at this and try something else? I do it politely, so hopefully they don't hate me. Fingers crossed.
Well, I mean, you do it. But do you worry? Because recently I had a little run-in with one of these publishers about using certain terms, certain phrases,
Oh, yeah.
and I know I used ghetto, for instance, and
All right.
they're like, well, couldn't we call it working class neighborhood? And the problem for me was I was writing, it's a true crime, so it's a real story, and it's what one person said to another. They called it. So I'm thinking, well, I don't really want to change their language because it's personal. It's really, you're getting to know who this person is. It's real. It's not made up. So, but does that concern you, or do you sort of have to run through?
I mean, I try to be a bit careful. I guess the first books I wrote probably wouldn't pass through editors these days without lots of changes, because it was quite gritty stuff. It was 3 gangster novels, and I wrote them 10 years ago. So I suspect there'd be quite a bit of re-engineering required to make it through these. Well, they have sensitivity readers, I think they call them now.
Yeah.
And I got picked up on what I thought was really innocuous stuff this time, which was a couple of times I wrote about males, and I got told, well, women can be bullies too, and I was a bit baffled because I thought, well, is this because, and sensitivity question mark, and I thought, well, surely, middle-aged white guys like me aren't going to get bent out and shaped by somebody complaining about a male boss being a bully or something. And I was a bit, and I never did get an answer to the question, but I did ask, is this a new thing that the publishers, are you all being told? And I said, I don't mean it sarcastically, I mean it genuinely, because I'd like to know, have we got to avoid saying, I think I wrote something like, oh, I hope you never have to work for some bullying male boss. You'll end up, and talentless male boss or something that you'll end up carrying, I think I wrote, about a woman talking to another woman. And I wasn't really aware that was going to worry anyone, the fact that I described this bully as a male, because I know female bosses could be bullies as well, but I just thought, well, historically, I think men take the world title for bullying other people at work, really, and that was an unusual one. But yeah, I suppose I'm a little bit not censored as such, but you're just aware that the world has turned a little bit. So even if you're writing something ironically, then people can still get upset. I mean, my protagonist in my first 3 books was not a good guy. The only reason you would like him is that he was slightly less appalling than the people around him, because he worked in organised crime. So he's obviously not going to be a nice guy. I didn't want to write him like that. But he isn't me, if you see what I mean. So when I'm writing his thoughts, they're not my thoughts. But I suspect these days a lot of his thoughts would have been edited out. Some of his thoughts on women, he was a little bit bordering on misogynistic, I suppose, or a bit dismissive. But I was writing about a guy who every day faced possible death, injury, or arrest, and he was dating someone who was a normal woman with a normal career. And I thought, well, when she comes home and moans about her day, he's not going to go, oh, darling, come here, I'll buy you a glass of wine. He's just going to be, in his head, he's going to be like, oh, God, you think you've got problems? That probably made him sound a bit misogynistic, but it wasn't the intention to make him like a woman hater. It was just, I didn't think he'd be very tolerant because he's not a nice guy. But I suspect I probably would be asked to cut some of that these days, I guess.
Yeah, it's not.
The world has changed,
Yeah, you're triggering people.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to drive off the road if I'm listening to your book. People like you Howard Linskey, don't let them in. Don't
yes, exactly. You see, I mean, they can't say I didn't warn them. So,
Don't let them in. It's not pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
You think you got problems, lady.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think if you're facing any kind of horrific, I don't suppose police officers and firefighters are very tolerant of guys who go, you would not believe what my boss said today, So they'd be like, well, dude, get over it, But,
he didn't like my hair.
Yeah, I know. He looked at me in a funny way, as they say over here, So he gave me such a look,
Yeah, he was undressing me with his eyes.
Yeah, I was actually on fire earlier, but, and I mean, literally, not metaphorically, the firefighters would be saying, wouldn't they? And, you're worried about someone giving you a hard stare.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But, hey,
He was holding his hose in a certain. More hate mail. This is a hateful show, I tell you. This is
well,
well, someone's got to do it. Right?
I like hanging out with you guys, but obviously it's career ending for me. By the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, when in doubt, come on the show. We either we make you or break you.
Break you.
I think we should change the name of the show. Make you or break you.
Can I just ask, have you made anyone, or have you just broken everyone?
Yeah, we've pretty much broken everyone. No, that's the truth.
Oh,
of it,
dear.
There's been a few people that made it, but they ended up in a nut house. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Unfair word. Beep, beep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Careful.
Not allowed to say that. And it's like, no, it was a house that sells peanuts.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. It's like when I say cock, they say you can't say that, and I'm talking about a chicken.
A chicken. Yeah.
They don't believe me.
No. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, and now, social media and stuff. Do you like reviews? Do you like the new world? Do you like this whole internet? And do you have website? Do you have social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's mixed really. So the things I do like, I've got a website, and that's really good because I can get all the books on there, and I don't bang on about me too much. There's a little bit about me, obviously background wise, but all the books are there so you can see those, and that's very handy. Obviously, it's useful that with the internet you can order things online. So a book's literal shelf life in this country would be weeks, possibly months, unless it's a big hit. So after a while, the easiest place to get it is to go online and shop that way. Social media, I quite like being on Facebook because I like the interaction with friends, but I also am able to tell someone that I'm going to go and do a signing in Newcastle to launch a new book, and immediately 1,500 people will see that. So that's kind of handy. It doesn't mean they're all going to turn up, but some will. So that's useful. Twitter, I like less because it doesn't feel like a conversation, whereas on Facebook, you interact with people. And Instagram, if you went on there, you'd see the cover of Alice Taylor's Missing, which is at least 2 years old, because I went on there and I just didn't really get it. I'm sort of feel like I'm shouting into the ether. And if there's anyone out there, I think I connected to about 40 people on Instagram and posted the cover of an old book, when it wasn't old. And I just thought, no, I don't really get this. So I am a typical, middle-aged bloke from my country. I'm on Facebook. I just about understand Twitter. Instagram, not really. And TikTok, that's for the young ones. I should be on there. Banging on there. Books, but I wouldn't. Yeah. I haven't even looked at it yet. I suppose.
You put on a bikini and you hold your book and you get on there and you put on some wild music and dance for about 30 seconds.
You have heard about my hobbies at weekends, then?
Yeah.
You just literally described them.
Yeah.
Crikey.
So so get on there because you'll be selling tons of books.
Well, I like to think I've got the figure for it. So,
there you go. Perfect.
Oh, dear.
But the G-string's got to be your size. Okay. Stop wearing
that's true. Yes. I don't want that to happen again. No, exactly. So, yeah. But yeah, I think I need to get a Zoom meeting with Penguin to tell them about the marketing strategy we've dreamt up between us guys, because this is good stuff.
Yeah, I'm here.
We're going to write mysteries that don't end, which is great. No resolution whatsoever. Literary fiction crime novels that never end. Yeah. And it's just about the detective having a bit of a midlife crisis in his head. So, that'll work.
That's it. It's all about the drama. Nobody cares about the murder.
Exactly.
And it's going to be real sensitive. They're going to sit there and talk about sensitivity and feelings and the tree. The tree makes me feel, and they're going to have a conversation with the tree each chapter.
We're going to call it the cancelled detective.
Yeah,
detective.
He said the wrong thing on social media, and now he's out in the wilderness. He's solving cases on his own because his boss is appalled. He said the wrong thing on Twitter.
See, I like this. This goes. You see, you're going to be a big star here. I'm telling you, you're one of the make-its.
Excellent. I'll come back on when I have.
Yeah, we can have your agent call our agent, right? Yeah, I know.
I will, definitely, guys. Yeah.
Well, so now what is the website so people can come find you?
Yeah, I'm just at howardlinskey.com. So that's
perfect.
Easy enough.
We'll have that up on our website too, so people can find you, and then they can hunt you down.
Yes.
And please, bad comments all go to Howard Linskey. He's looking forward to it. And bad reviews too.
I'd just like to apologise for anything I may have said in the past hour to anyone I may have offended. I think America's a wonderful country, full of beautiful people. And there you go. And some ugly ones, obviously. Oh, damn, I've done it again.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian, The Country of Kim. Yeah. Well, so now the book we want you to buy is called Don't Let Him In. If you're on social media, you'll see Don't Let Him In, the gripping psychological thriller that will send shivers down your spine. But it's just Howard Linskey, Don't Let Him In, or you could be problems, you know. Well, Howard Linskey, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks so much, guys, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Howard.
Tired of wasting time trying to decide what to watch on your streaming service? Go to our website and look for the Martino movie reviews.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or show, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me? Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.